Did you know signs of dementia appear a year before an official diagnosis? That's the part that surprises most people. Not the memory loss that comes later, but the small things that sneak in much earlier and often go unnoticed. These signs are subtle, easy to shrug off, and sometimes even mistaken for just getting older. But they can speak volumes, and recognizing them now could make all the difference later. In this video, we're going to explore 5 early warning signs that might appear a year before dementia. They're not dramatic or obvious, but they're meaningful. From small behavioral shifts to unusual decisions, these changes might be trying to tell us something. The sooner we notice, the better equipped we are to act. We're not here to alarm you. We're here to prepare you so you can take charge of your health and support those around you. Stay tuned until the end, because you'll not only understand these early signs more clearly, but you'll walk away with practical insight that might help you or someone you love live a longer, more independent life. And if this is your first time, here I encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications. This channel is dedicated to helping older adults stay informed, empowered, and confident about their well-being. One video at a time. Let's begin. Sign 1. Subtle memory lapses in daily tasks. One of the earliest signs that often flies under the radar is a quiet shift in memory, especially with things that used to feel automatic. It's not forgetting everything at once or struggling to recognize loved ones. That usually comes much later. Instead, what often shows up first is a pattern of tiny missteps. You might walk into the kitchen and forget why, or misplace your glasses, more often than usual, even if they've always had a regular spot. Or you might start to notice that you've missed a dental appointment you were sure you had written down. These kinds of lapses may sound harmless, and sometimes they are. Everyone forgets things occasionally, but when these moments become more frequent or start to interfere with your normal routine, they can be early signals that something deeper is changing. There's often a quiet frustration that builds because on some level, you know that something's off. You may feel embarrassed or try to brush it off, telling yourself you were just tired or distracted. But here's what makes it more than just forgetfulness. It's the lack of awareness that it's even happening. A person might repeat a story 3 times in one afternoon and not realize it until someone gently points it out, or they may forget to turn off the stove, not because they were rushing, but because the task simply vanished from their mind halfway through. And when this starts to affect daily life, missing bills, forgetting medication, or struggling to keep track of errands, it deserves attention. One example comes from a man named Harold, who was 74 when his daughter first noticed that he kept asking the same question about her job during every phone call. At first, she thought it was just a sweet way of showing interest, but then she realized he wasn't remembering the answers. He'd also forgotten to renew his driver's license, something he had done like clockwork for decades. These weren't dramatic incidents, but they added up. Subtle memory slips like these often precede the more noticeable signs of dementia by months, even a year or more. They are not always easy to detect, especially if the person is still functioning well in other areas, but they can serve as quiet red flags. The earlier they're noticed, the sooner action can be taken, whether that means talking to a doctor, tracking changes over time, or making adjustments to daily routines that protect independence and safety. Sign 2. Changes in mood or personality when people think of dementia. They often picture memory loss, but long before memory becomes a problem, there can be noticeable changes in how someone behaves, feels, or interacts with the world. These aren't just bad days or normal irritability. There are shifts that don't quite match who the person used to be, and they often emerge without any clear explanation. One common early sign is increased irritability or frustration over things that wouldn't have caused a stir before. A senior who used to be patient and easygoing might suddenly seem short-tempered, snapping at small inconveniences or reacting with visible agitation when routines are disrupted. It's not that life has become harder, it's that their tolerance has quietly narrowed. Others may become more anxious or withdrawn, even in situations where they used to feel at ease. A woman who once looked forward to church gatherings or book clubs might now find excuses to stay home. She might say she's tired or not in the mood, but underneath it's often because those settings now feel overwhelming. Processing conversations, following group dynamics, or even navigating the ride there may suddenly seem like too much, and that stress can manifest as avoidance. Some seniors may begin to show uncharacteristic sadness or apathy. They may lose interest in hobbies they once loved, or seem less motivated to engage with others. This isn't always full-blown depression. It can be a quiet detachment, a sense that their spark has dimmed. And what makes it concerning is when this emotional shift doesn't have an obvious cause, like grief, illness, or loss of a friend. Family members often describe it as something they can't quite put their finger on. A son might notice that his mother doesn't laugh at the same jokes anymore, or seems more emotionally flat in conversation. A friend might say someone feels not like themselves. These are subtle, but they matter. Another form of personality change comes in the way someone reacts to new information. A man named Walter, who was 76, had always been curious and open-minded, but his daughter noticed that he had become more rigid and suspicious. He doubted her when she explained simple things, like changes in his insurance, and he resisted any new ideas with a firmness that felt out of place. He hadn't just become grumpy, his worldview was quietly shifting, and it made her pause. These early mood or personality changes are significant because they often reflect stress in the brain's emotional regulation systems. They can precede memory symptoms by months and offer an important clue that something isn't quite right beneath the surface. If someone begins to react in uncharacteristic ways, pulling back, becoming emotionally blunted, or responding with hostility when they used to be calm, it's time to take note. And while mood changes can stem from many things, pain, medications, grief, it's their persistence and newness that make them stand out. The sooner we notice, the sooner we can explore what's driving the change, whether that means checking in with a doctor, adjusting daily structure, or simply paying closer attention. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Sign 3. Trouble following conversations. One of the earliest and often overlooked signs that something may be changing in the brain is difficulty keeping up with conversations. This isn't about occasional forgetfulness or losing your train of thought from time to time, which happens to all of us. It's more about struggling to process the flow of information as it's being shared, especially in real time or group settings. For many seniors, it can feel deeply frustrating, like the words are coming at them too fast or the thread of the conversation keeps slipping through their fingers. A person may start asking others to repeat themselves more often, not because of hearing problems, but because their brain is having trouble keeping pace. They might lose track of what was just said or miss key details, even though they were paying attention. Sometimes they even respond in a way that's slightly off topic, not because they weren't listening, but because their mind didn't quite grasp the full context. Imagine being at a family dinner where several people are talking at once. A man named Harold, who was 82, used to love these moments, but his daughter started to notice that he would sit quietly, nod occasionally, but rarely join in. When asked later about the conversation, he'd shrug or say he didn't quite catch everything. She realized it wasn't disinterest, it was difficulty keeping up. The back and forth had become too fast, too layered, and too much to mentally juggle. This kind of challenge often shows up when there are distractions in the background or when someone is being told a story that jumps from one point to another. They may get confused or forget the beginning before the end is even reached. In group settings, this can lead to withdrawal. A senior who once enjoyed chatting may start avoiding group conversations altogether because they feel overwhelmed or embarrassed about missing things. Word-finding trouble can also be part of the picture. A person might pause often, searching for simple words they've said 1,000 times before. It's not that the word is gone forever, it's just that it doesn't come when they need it, and they know it. This awareness can lead to frustration or self-consciousness, especially in public or around people they don't know well. In some cases, the person may start to substitute vague words like thing or stuff for more specific terms, or they may trail off mid-sentence and not finish their thought. This can make conversations feel disjointed, and over time it may affect their confidence in speaking up. They may worry they'll say the wrong thing or that people won't understand them, so they speak less. But the most telling part is how consistent the struggle becomes. We all lose our words now and then. But if this starts happening regularly, and especially if someone seems aware and concerned about it, it's worth paying attention. The ability to follow and contribute to a conversation is tightly connected to how the brain processes language, attention, and memory. So, when that ability falters even in subtle ways, it can be one of the first whispers that something deeper might be shifting. It's also important to notice how this affects relationships. If someone feels left out of conversations, they may stop initiating them. They may start to feel isolated, even when they're not alone. And that isolation, in turn, can accelerate cognitive decline by cutting off one of the brain's most important sources of stimulation: meaningful communication. Sign 4. Losing interest in favorite activities. When someone begins to quietly withdraw from the hobbies, routines, or interests that once brought them joy, it can be one of the clearest and most concerning indicators that something might be changing beneath the surface. This kind of disinterest doesn't usually happen overnight. It creeps in slowly, sometimes so subtly that even close family members don't catch it right away. A man named Walter, who was 78, used to love tending to his vegetable garden. Every spring he'd plant out the layout, pick up seedlings, and spend hours making sure the soil was just right. But one year, his daughter noticed that the garden had been left bare. When she asked about it, he just said he didn't get around to it. The following season, the tools stayed in the shed again. No tomatoes, no lettuce, just weeds growing where there used to be care and pride. This kind of change often signals more than simple fatigue or boredom. It can suggest that the brain is beginning to lose its natural drive to seek out reward, pleasure, and purpose. In many early dementia cases, this withdrawal isn't about laziness or mood swings. It's about a diminishing connection to what once felt meaningful or fulfilling. What makes this pattern particularly tricky is that it doesn't always come with sadness. A person might not seem overtly depressed. They might still be polite, pleasant, or even smile during interactions. But underneath, the spark that used to push them to act, participate, or initiate seems to dim. They stop planning events, they don't start new projects, and they may even turn down invitations they used to accept without a second thought. Sometimes this shows up in the way they dress or take care of themselves. Someone who used to be sharp about their clothes, grooming, or home maintenance might begin to overlook those details. They may let mail pile up, avoid opening bills, or stop returning phone calls. It's not because they can't, they just don't feel the urge to anymore. The inner momentum fades, and that can be deeply telling. Even watching television or reading, the paper can become too much effort. They might sit in front of the screen but not follow what's happening. Books go unfinished, magazines pile up. They might say nothing's wrong, but when asked what they've been up to, their answer becomes vague. Not much, just relaxing, or nothing at all. This apathy can be misread as normal aging, especially since everyone slows down a bit with time. But there's a difference between slowing down and disconnecting. The former comes with physical pacing, the latter with emotional fading. If the person used to look forward to social events or creative hobbies, and now avoids or forgets them regularly, it may point to something deeper than just getting older. This kind of early withdrawal can also be a defense mechanism. If someone starts to recognize their own memory or communication struggles, they might step away from things that once exposed those gaps. They may not want others to notice they're forgetting details or losing track of conversations, so they quietly excuse themselves from situations where they might feel judged, overwhelmed, or out of place. When this happens, it's essential to respond with warmth, not pressure. Pushing them back into routines won't help if the core issue is deeper. What they need instead is gentle companionship, encouragement, and perhaps a closer look at what might be going on medically. A simple conversation led with care can open the door to understanding and action that could make a difference. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Sign 5. Unusual struggles with directions and familiar places. When someone begins to lose their sense of direction or forget how to get to places they've known for years, it's often more than just a moment of absent-mindedness. One of the subtler but more serious warning signs of early dementia is difficulty navigating spaces that once felt second nature. And the tricky part is, it doesn't always happen all at once. Instead, it shows up in small, unnerving moments that slowly become more frequent. Picture someone like Frank, age 82, who used to drive every Sunday to the same little church, just 10 minutes from his home. One morning, he missed a turn, then circled the block twice, unsure why the route didn't feel right. Eventually he made it, but he arrived flustered, unsure how he had gotten confused in the first place. A month later, he called his daughter in the middle of the afternoon, stuck on a street just a mile from his house, unable to remember which way led home. These situations don't always involve long distances. In fact, some of the most telling signs happen within the home. A person might forget which drawer holds the silverware, or they might hesitate at the hallway, uncertain which door leads to the bedroom. It's not just forgetfulness. It's as if their mental map has been altered, and once familiar surroundings suddenly feel unfamiliar. This disorientation doesn't necessarily follow a consistent pattern. One day, everything seems fine. The next, they're unsure how to get to the grocery store they've shopped at for decades. They may start relying heavily on others to guide them, or avoid going out altogether for fear of getting lost. In some cases, they might even stop driving, not because they can't physically operate a car, but because their confidence in navigating has quietly vanished. It's important to understand that this shift is not about carelessness. It's about the brain's ability to process spatial information, which begins to falter when someone can't recall landmarks, forgets where certain roads lead, or starts taking unusually long routes to familiar places. It reflects a deeper issue with cognitive mapping, and unfortunately, this kind of spatial confusion is often one of the earliest neurological signs of dementia. Another clue is the way they react to new environments. A simple visit to a friend's house or a walk through a larger store can become overwhelming. They might cling to your arm more than usual, or seem hesitant to explore on their own. Their eyes dart around as they try to get their bearings, but they look unsure, like someone searching for a signpost in the fog. Even indoor navigation can become a challenge. A trip to the bathroom in a restaurant they've been to before might leave them feeling embarrassed if they forget which hallway to turn into. These moments can shake their confidence and quietly increase their anxiety. They may start avoiding outings altogether, not because they dislike the place, but because they fear what might happen if they forget where they are or how to get back. What makes this sign particularly troubling is that it often goes unnoticed by others, especially if the person is skilled at masking it. They may carry a phone with a GPS app, or make vague excuses about traffic or errands to cover up the fact that they got turned around. And because they're still functioning well in other areas, friends and family may not catch on until the pattern becomes harder to ignore. When you begin to see these signs, difficulty remembering routes, unfamiliarity, familiar surroundings, hesitation to navigate even short distances, it's time to pay attention. These shifts aren't just about memory. They're about the way the brain is processing space, movement, and awareness. They signal a need for support, understanding, and, in many cases, a medical evaluation. If these behaviors show up in someone you love or even in yourself, it's not a reason to panic, but it is a reason to listen, to observe more closely, and to begin thinking about how to best support clarity, comfort, and independence as long as possible. Final thoughts as we reflect on the 5 subtle signs that often appear a year before dementia. It's important to remember that awareness is the first step toward preparation. These changes, whether it's unexpected irritability, withdrawing from once-loved activities, struggling with everyday tasks, searching for the right words, or getting lost in familiar places, are not just part of aging. They are gentle signals from the brain asking for attention, care, and sometimes intervention. What stood out to you the most? Maybe you recognized a pattern in someone you love, or perhaps you saw something that made you pause and think about your own habits. That's a good thing, because noticing the little things can make a big difference. By catching these signs early, you create space for understanding and support, long before confusion and frustration take root. There's also something deeply human about this topic. It reminds us that life is precious and fragile, and that the way we treat others, especially those who begin to struggle, says everything about our capacity for kindness. These signs aren't just medical clues. They are invitations to show up, be present, and walk with someone through uncertainty instead of letting them walk alone. And if you're someone who sees these signs in yourself, know this: you are not defined by forgetfulness, hesitation, or change. You are defined by your resilience, your value, and the wisdom you've built over a lifetime. Seeking help or sharing concerns doesn't make you weaker, it makes you stronger. It takes courage to look closely and ask hard questions, and even more, courage to take the next step forward. There are ways to navigate this journey with dignity. With the right support, the early signs of dementia don't have to lead to fear. They can lead to understanding, to new routines, to a deeper appreciation for the simple joys of daily life, and to connections that remain meaningful, even if the words sometimes falter. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.